Hello everyone and welcome to my guide on how to do the third boss in the Sunwell Plateau for WoW TBC Classic. The third boss is Felmyst. That's this one. Let's get into it. Felmyst is a two-phase encounter with a ground phase and an air phase. The boss starts in the ground phase. While she is on the ground, Felmyst has a frontal cleave, so make sure to point her away from the raid. Unlike other dragons, she does not have a tail swipe, so melee are free to attack while behind the boss. The next ability she has is Corrosion, which does a chunk of damage to the current tank and puts a debuff on them for 10 seconds that increases damage taken by 100%. This just needs to be healed through. Next is Gas Nova, which is a nasty debuff that she puts on the entire raid that does 3000 damage and drains 1000 mana every 2 seconds. This must be dispelled as soon as possible. Priest's Mass Dispel works on this debuff and is the best way to deal with it. Remember that Mass Dispel only hits up to 10 players per cast, so multiple Mass Dispels will be needed to keep up with the debuffs. Throughout the fight, Felmyst will also hit the raid with Noxious Fumes. This is just raid-wide ticking damage that cannot be avoided and needs to be healed through. The next and most important ability is Encapsulate. Felmyst will target a random player, throw them in the sky, and deal massive ticking damage to them and anyone else within 20 yards. This is a channeled ability, so the boss will no longer be attacking the tank. All healers will need to switch to the encapsulated person and spam any heals they can. Immunities like Ice Block and Pally Bubble can be used to stop her cast and avoid all damage. After 60 seconds on the ground, the boss will fly into the air and begin Phase 2. At the beginning of Phase 2, she will cast Demonic Vapor at random targets. This is a green laser looking ability that will follow the targeted player for a few seconds. The laser will drop patches of green mist on the ground that will summon skeletons and do ticking damage to anyone who touches it. Also, anyone who takes damage from the green mist will continue to summon more skeletons. The lasers need to be kited away from the raid, and the skeletons need to be grouped up and killed. After 2 demonic vapors are cast, the boss will fly to either the eastern or western side of the arena and begin casting Fog of Corruption. This is a breath ability where she will fly from one side to the other, dropping a nasty green cloud on the ground that will mind control anyone who gets hit by it. There is no way to stop the mind control, so anyone hit by this needs to be targeted and killed immediately. Before the pull, split the raid into 4 specific groups. The mana-intensive mage and healer groups will be on one side of the boss, while the melee and other ranged will be on the other. Make sure that the mana-intensive side has a maximum of 10 players in it. Each group should be spread in a way that one priest Mass Dispel can hit 2 groups at a time at maximum distance. The stack point should be as tight as possible to make sure that the groups are as far away without outranging Mass Dispel. All of this is to deal with the Gas Nova mechanic. As soon as the boss begins casting Gas Nova, the priest should begin casting their Mass Dispel. One priest will be assigned to dispel Triangle and Star, while the other priests will target X and Square. This will ensure that everyone who is reliant on mana gets dispelled immediately by one Mass Dispel and no one is left out. With 3 or more priests, this mechanic is trivialized by Mass Dispel. But if there are only 2 priests in the raid, then all other dispellers will need to help clear the debuffs. Don't forget that the tank will be out of range of any of the Mass Dispels, so they will need a targeted dispel. Paladins are a great assignment for this. Pull the boss when she is flying directly overhead the tank. The tank needs to wait to reposition her until after she lands. Once she lands, point her away from the raid but in between the stack groups so the raid does not need to reposition. When Gas Nova goes out, make sure to get dispels out as soon as possible. The rest of the raid needs to pay attention to Felmyst's model at all times. Assuming no one pulls threat off the tank, if she ever turns and looks at your group, that means she is about to cast Encapsulate. Every person in that group needs to run from the encapsulated person. If you do it fast enough, you should only take 1 to 2 ticks of damage. You cannot wait until after the person is already up in the air to move. It happens very quick, so all raiders need to react fast if they want to survive. Encapsulate is fully arcane resistible, so using the same arcane resist gear you have for Calicos is recommended. Cauldrons and potions of major arcane protection can also help in survivability. Focus on surviving Encapsulate above all else. If the healers are strong enough, you can have the groups not move for Encapsulate and just chain heal spam through it. However, the damage is very quick and very spiky, and a GCD at the wrong time can mean a wipe. There is a ton of damage on this phase. There's a lot of constant damage on the raid, as well as incredible spike damage from Corrosion and Encapsulate. Healers pump as much as you can since you will have time to regen it back during the air phase. Do not worry about your mana pool, just send it as much as you can. Once Phase 2 begins, the raid will loosely spread from their original positions. Anyone who is targeted with the green beam should kite it away from the raid to the outside of the red lines or to the south towards X. Range can continue to hit the boss while the green lasers are going out. Make sure to never get hit by the green laser or the green mist it leaves on the ground, since it does decent damage and will summon more skeletons. DPS do not begin AoEing until the pally tank has all of the skeletons rounded up. They do not hit very hard and can be slowed, so hunters should place frost traps to help the pally kite. More and more skeletons will continue to spawn even as the first group begins to hit the pally. You have plenty of time to kill these skeletons, and they have very low health, so help your tanks out and don't attack early. After the lasers are cast, the boss will begin the breath phase. The entire raid should stack on the raid leader and follow where they call out. The boss will cover 1/3 of the arena with each breath. She will either hit the north, middle, or south third of the arena. There is nothing else to do this phase, but make sure that you do not get hit by a breath attack. The previous breath should disappear before her next breath is cast, so you will always have 2/3 of the arena that is safe. Be careful of the residual breath cloud she leaves, since if you touch it even after she places it, you will still get mind controlled. Any DPS who has threat dropping abilities like invisibility and feign death should use it now, since the boss does not reset threat between phases and some of the DPS may have passed the tank while she is in the air. All ranged DPS need to watch their meters and make sure they are below the threat threshold to not pull once the boss runs back into position at the beginning of the next ground phase. Warlocks, make sure to use Soul Shatter only when the boss is within 50 yards or else it will not hit. After she casts 3 breaths, the boss will land on whatever side she ended on and begin the ground phase again. The raid should go back to their assigned positions and just let the boss run to the tank when it lands. This boss is arguably the easiest one in Sunwell and has a 10-minute enrage timer. If you beat Brutalis, then your raid has the DPS to easily kill Felmyst. The only raids that manage to hit the enrage timer are the ones where half of the raid is dead for a good portion of the fight. Focus on safe play and on staying alive, and this boss will fall. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again in my next video for the next boss in Sunwell Plateau. Good luck out there, everybody.